Hey, it's Clay. Welcome to another League of Legends video. This time I wanted to do a kind of an overview of some of my favorite champions. I'm going to pick one champion from each lane and kind of talk about why they're my favorite in that lane and kind of some of the reasons why I really enjoy playing them. This is again just my personal preference. I truly believe that out of the 100 and I don't know, 15 champions or so that they're up to now, that almost all of them are at least somewhat viable, especially at lower. I mean, if you're below gold, pretty much any of these champions can be played successfully. Maybe there are about like 5 that I would say are pretty bad. But other than that, the rest I would say are extremely viable. But these are just my favorites. So we're going to start with the top lane. My top lane pick is hands down Kennen. I really, really enjoy playing him. One, because he has the Kennen MD skin. He's taking a look at Cho'Gath's innards, and it's just awesome. But the main reason why, there are 2 reasons why I like Kennen. And there are, I think these are 2 core things, is that he has, number 1, strong laning, and number 2, a very well-defined team fighting role. And I feel like champions that have both of those things, strong laning and good team fighting, really, it's a very powerful combination. In lane he's ranged, he's got safety with his lightning rush, he's got fantastic harass with his, if you land a Q, you're guaranteed to also land your W, so his harassment and poke is very, very strong, and he's ranged. He can go up against a variety of different, it's very difficult to find somebody who really shuts him down, just because he's so versatile with his high mobility, his high poke. He also has decent all-in with his passive and his ult, so I mean, he really has a lot of things going for him. He can be built in a variety of different ways, a mix of AD and AP. He can even go more of a tank build, which I've tried, and it works pretty darn well just because he has so much crowd control. Just a really fun champ to play. But then in team fights, he becomes this fantastic AoE, stun bot who can really, really shift the tides of a team fight. If you're able to flash ult and then E and then W through all of the team and then hit your Zhonya's, it's one of the most powerful team fight mechanics in the entire game, and so it makes him very, very strong, and definitely one of my favorites to play there. So Kennen, he's pretty awesome. I definitely think you guys should pick him up if you haven't. Let's move to jungle. My favorite jungler, I don't jungle that often, but my favorite is definitely Cho'Gath. Again, you can see a theme arising. He has fantastic skins, even though I don't own any. That will change someday, but Cho'Gath is awesome. I think he is a really fantastic champion to play. One of the best reasons I think that he's good in the jungle is that he's extremely versatile. He can fit into almost any team composition because he provides, high sustain, high crowd control, and some good tankiness. He also is capable of, you can build him anywhere in the mix. He is very item independent. His kit is effective regardless of items. He has a lot of tankiness built into his ultimate if you're able to get stacks going. He's got a lot of crowd control with his Q and his E, and even if you pick up something like a Rylai's, his E then has a perma-slow. So he just has a ton of crowd control, so he doesn't necessarily need a lot of items to be effective. You can build him full tank and just be an absolute menace who becomes very unkillable. And his tank build, I think, is extremely effective because he works really, really well with a lot of the tank items. Like something like an a Frozen Heart is so good on him because it gives him armor, it gives him mana, it gives him CDR. Fantastic, even like on the flip side for the magic resist, if you go for a what's it called? Oh dang it! I need to look this up. I need to know. Spirit Visage, Spirit Visage. That's another really good item. Any of these items work well. You can even stack health on him too. Go like for Rylai's and a spirit, not a Spirit Visage. Rylai's into Haunting Guys, and then into wow. I'm having such a mental block right now with these items. Let's take a look at ability power. Liandry's Torment, thank you very much. But anyways, he's extremely versatile. You can go more of a tank build. You can also go more of a straight damage AP build, which can actually be surprisingly effective. He has very strong ratios on his abilities, so he can also be a very, very strong candidate. And I think he's a little bit underplayed, so people undervalue him. And if you're able to land your Qs, he can really be a knock-up. I would say the knock-up is the best form of hard crowd control, because to my knowledge, it is not affected by tenacity. So knock-ups are always pretty much better than stuns because you can reduce the effectiveness of stuns with with crowd control reduction like Merc Treads or Spirit of the Ancient Golem, but with a knockup, I don't think you can do that. So Cho'Gath, he's a fantastic jungler, extremely versatile, can really help out a lot of lanes, has good wave clear, good ganking, good tankiness, can be built for damage, just extremely versatile pick, and I think he's a lot of fun. So Cho'Gath is my pick for jungle. Next would be mid lane. My pick for mid lane is hands down going to be Zed. Zed is my favorite mid laner by far. He is, I think, in my opinion right now, the strongest assassin. I mean, Kassadin's up there, but personally I think Zed is just stronger because, well, number one, I think AD assassins have a big advantage just because, especially in mid lane, where the mid tower is so highly contested, if you're able to push them out of lane consistently, you're going to get that tower very, very quickly. So it's definitely to your advantage to go for an AD mid instead of an AP mid because of their ability to push down towers. I also think that his mobility with his 3 shadows, he gets a living shadow here and he gets a death mark, and he can use all of those shadows and kind of juke around people. Just his potential for high skill cap, high mobility gameplay is really, really good. And so it's always like there's always something you could have done in that situation. You have the tools to accomplish almost anything. He has fantastic wave clear. I think one of the best things to have in a laner is strong wave clear. If you compare someone like Poppy to Zed, I think one of the main reasons that Poppy struggles is because she has extremely horrible wave clear. She has no AoE abilities. She has no ranged abilities. But her kit is still amazingly strong. If she gets farmed, she can assassinate just as well as Zed can, perhaps even better. But because he has such good wave clear, it makes farming really, really easy. So even if you're not doing very well, you can always just farm with your Q. You can throw a WEQ combo and just clear an entire minion wave in like one swipe once you get a Blade of the Ruin King. So his farming is extremely strong. It just makes it really easy to get a lot of gold, and you need a lot of gold to get kills. And then lastly, his Death Mark is really, really fun to use, and it's extremely effective. I would say it's probably the best ability if you want to take somebody from 100 to 0 in like 3 seconds flat. I would say Zed is the ideal champion for that. Whereas I feel like with other assassins, you kind of need to wait, and then for cleanup, like someone like Katarina or Akali, they're much stronger in like the cleanup role, rather than Zed, who can just, if the AD carry gets kind of split away from their team, Zed can just dive in and immediately blow them up. And I think that is extremely powerful. Because if I'm able to trade my life for an AD carry's life, I will do that pretty much all the time, because then my AD carry is alive, and they can be pumping out damage while their AD carry is, sitting in respawn timers. So Zed is awesome. Like I said, high skill cap, high mobility, and extremely high damage. And I think one of the other reasons that I like him is that he has counterplay. So it makes playing with him very fun, because if somebody gets a Zhonya's or a Quicksilver Sash, they can technically counter your ultimate. But that doesn't mean that you're going to be ineffective, because then you're more using your ultimate more for like the gap closer and the extra shadow, which are still strong and powerful. So it's just, I think that playing him is a lot of fun, and he's very strong. He can definitely single-handedly carry games. Go top lane, mid lane. I haven't played him in the jungle too much, but he's my favorite mid lane, definitely by far. AD carry, you guys have heard me say this before. My favorite AD carry is Ezreal, as seen by all the skins that I own. This TPA Ezreal skin is OP, by the way. But the reason I like Ezreal so much is that he... I think that specifically his Q and his E are like 2 of the very best spells in the entire game. I wish, every time I play a champion, I'm a little bit disappointed that they don't have Mystic Shot and Arcane Shift. I think these spells specifically are extremely strong. And Mystic Shot is on like a 3 or 4 second cooldown, and it's got like 1100 range, and it scales with your AD. So it's just, it's super, super effective spell. And it kind of allows you, combined with his passive, if you stack Qs and then build up his passive stacks, you really don't have to buy attack speed on an AD carry, which is nice, so you can really focus on other things. And then Arcane Shift is, in my opinion, the best repositioning escape tool in the game. It's immediate, so it's unable to be interrupted. It's got good distance. It's got a low cooldown. It also has fairly high damage if you're using it offensively. Even though if you're not really building much AP, it will still do some significant damage. And then lastly, having a global ultimate I think is really cool on an AD carry. It just allows you to, you can clear minion waves, you can snipe people from across the map, you can participate in things all over the map. So I just think Ezreal is absolutely my favorite. The high mobility and the versatility of his kit, I think, is what makes him so strong. He is definitely not the best AD carry in terms of just raw damage output, but I feel like some of those types of AD carries, like specifically like Kog'Maw, they're not alive long enough to pump out enough damage to really make their mark. Whereas with Ezreal, here he's gonna, especially with the blue build, his kiting is just so incredibly strong that it allows you to stay alive in almost any situation. It makes him extremely difficult to catch. So, it just puts the enemy team in a really hard spot, because it's like, well, do you really want to chase after a blue Ezreal? Who in there? What? I can't think of any champion that is suited well for chasing a blue Ezreal. So, Ezreal is my favorite AD carry. Lastly, I'm going to talk about supports. This one is a bit of a tough one for me, but I'm going to go ahead and say that my favorite support play is Lulu. A close second going to Taric. Where are you at, Mr. Taric? But I'm going to give it to Lulu. I feel like I'm going to give it to Lulu just because she is more fun to play than Taric. But she has, so much power in her kit. She's got some of the best poke in a support. She's got a fantastic CC. I think that her Whimsy is just it's a cool crowd control. The silence and the slow is really, really cool. Glare Lance is a very powerful slow. The shield is nice, and then her ultimate is just so good. A well-timed wild growth in a team fight can really turn the tides of that team fight. And she's just extremely fun to play. Her abilities are very versatile. A lot of them have both an offensive and a defensive component. So there's a lot of interesting choices that you have to make about whether or not you're going to, empower your ally, or if you want to Whimsy the enemy, or if you want to grant the shield, or if you want to use the kind of the nuke on the enemy person. So there's just a lot of different ways you can go with her. Like, again, a very, very strong team fighter, also a very strong laner. And I think in the right hands, she can be played very, very well. But I also do want to give a shout out to Taric, because I think Taric he's much more simple. He's much more straightforward. But I think that he is just incredibly effective. His kit is incredibly effective. His Q, having a heal in lane really allows your AD carry to just focus on damage. With a little bit of lifesteal and a straight damage build, you're going to be totally fine in terms of sustain. And then his Shatter is extremely, I think, an underrated ability, just because an armor aura, where both you're buffing teammates' armor and you're shredding enemies' armor, is very, very effective. Armor is a very strong stat, and especially when you're landing with an AD carry, having an armor shred is extremely effective. And then a stun, a point-and-click stun, it's relatively boring, but a well-timed dazzle can absolutely change a team fight. Especially in terms of peeling for your AD carry, it is. Like, let's say, like I was talking about, if Zed jumps on your Tristana, well, I'm just going to dazzle him, and then, for half of the duration of his ultimate, he's stunned, and he's taking damage, and he's probably has a gap to close again, so he's going to either have to use his flash or his W, and then he's going to have no way to get out, and it can really, is one of the most effective. And then also his ultimate, the bonus to your allies, is just very effective. So I think Taric is strong. I think that he's a little bit more boring, which is why I picked Lulu, but I think that he is incredibly effective. So kind of went with a dual choice there on supports. But anyways, those are my favorite champions in each lane. A couple of other honorable mentions just of champions that are close to my heart. Nidalee is, I think, a really fun champ to play. She's one of the first champions that I got into. I think the first skin I bought was the French maid skin, and so she is... she's a lot of fun, and just the mobility and the spears, a very, very versatile, dynamic gameplay where you're constantly casting spells, you're constantly, darting in and out of combat. She can be built more tanky, she can build more bruiser, you can go AP, you can go AD, you can go, a straight mage and just crush people with spears. She's just very versatile. I would play her more, but the big problem with her is that she doesn't have any crowd control, so a bit of a problem there. But that is Nidalee. And also, I'm going to give one more honorable mention to a champion that I have picked up most recently that I'm really, really loving, is Tryndamere. Tryndamere is, I think, he has the potential to do things that no other champion can do. His ultimate it's either very ineffective or it's game-breaking. And so, and then when you combine that with the rest of his kit, his Q is so effective. in lane just to give him that heal and that sustain. His W is so good to give him some sort of crowd control to stick on targets. And his E is one of the best repositioning tools, on a melee champion like this. It can be a gap closer. You can use it to get over walls. And then the crit is just so good. I mean, if you get fed, you can really carry a game. And I think that of all the melee carries, I think Tryndamere has the strongest laning phase because he's got the sustain, he's got the gap close or escape, and then he can definitely carry late game as well. So Tryndamere gets kind of my honorable mention as the champion that I've started to really enjoy most recently. But anyways, I better stop now because I could go on and on about all these champs. Because I do love talking about champions, but that's why I do the why buys. But I'm going to stop it here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.